Shout out to the content creators that inspired me to look at this video. Their channels and videos will be in the description. Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception. So, what does that apply to? It applies to dog culture. Aggressive mimicry is a form of similarity in which a predator or parasite gains an advantage by resembling to a third party, the prey or the host species itself. It may be a species that the prey does not regard as threatening. So aggressive mimicry, that is how dog culture is deceptive. The people that sell dogs into our culture by calling them fur babies and everything else, and the dogs themselves are deceptive. The title of the video that we're looking at is called, Would You Raise the Bird That Murdered Your Children? Well, would you raise a dog and allow it to murder your children? Yes, this family and so many other families would. The links about this story will be in the description. Let's have a look at our video.
This is a little bee-eater's nest, but this is not a little bee-eater chick. It's a newly hatched honey guide, and it's much more lethal. When its mother placed it here, she punctured all the other eggs in the nest. However, one little bee-eater chick survived the attack and is now hatching. Although the honey guide nestling is still completely blind, it instinctively stabs the little bee-eater chick with its sharp hook.
Instinctively stabs? What? That sounds like a story right out of dog culture. All these children being stabbed by dogs. The link will be in the description.
Beak. And over the following weeks, the host parents devotedly care for the hatchling that murdered their offspring.
Devotedly care for the hatchling that murdered their offspring. What? Boy, that sounds like dog culture too. Devotingly caring for the hatchlings that murder their offspring.
Evolutionary strategy in which one animal tricks another into rearing its young. It's especially well known among birds. By depositing their eggs into a stranger's nest, brood parasites are able to shift the major costs of parenting onto others.
Sounds like millennials. Millennials spend more on their dogs' well-being than their own. Millennials choose dogs over kids. Dogs more expensive to raise in the long term, but
Early, then monopolize their host parents' attention.
Wait, they hatch early and then they monopolize the host parent's attention? Monopolizing the host parent attention. Dad's taking a picture, kid's sitting there, mom's giving the dog attention. Yeah, that sounds like right out of the playbook of dog culture.
Some stab their fellow nestlings to death, while others shove the remaining occupants out of the nest. Meanwhile, others are less harmful to their hosts. Not all brood parasites kill all of their hosts' offspring outright. Brown-headed cowbirds usually outcompete them by begging for food louder, more frequently, and with a wider mouth.
That's exactly what dogs do. A huge conversation in all of the dog owner communities. How do I stop my dog from begging? How do I stop my dog from begging? Begging and taking the kids' food. And we glorify it all over the place.
Among the most benign, black-headed ducks lay their eggs in other nests to be incubated. However, a few hours after hatching, they simply saunter off. But in the most egregious cases of brood parasitism, why don't host parents take a stand? In fact,
yeah, why don't host parents take a stand? Especially humans. We're supposed to be intelligent. Why do parents allow this? My dog steals my food. Why don't parents take a stand? Why don't parents take a stand when these dogs are humping their kids? Parents think that this is funny. My dog humped my kid. This is borderline bestiality, pedophile action or something. Yeah, why do the parents not take a freaking stand when it comes to any of the things that dogs do to their kids?
Hosts will often drive adult brood parasites away from their nests, and many take their defenses further. But whether a host can recognize and reject parasitic eggs and nestlings seems to depend on a few factors.
One factor I would say in modern society is having a proper mom and dad at home. If you just have a single parent, they tend to lean towards the dog. But let's look at some other possibilities here. Look at the way people constantly dress their dogs as babies. They market dogs as babies, and how can parents have a proper mindset when this is the prevailing culture everywhere? People dressing their dogs up as little cute babies. How can they have a visual proper recognition when we're allowing dogs to dress like this and the culture pushes this all over the place? Like all these dogs constantly being dressed like little babies. The birds use visual recognition, but our culture pushes these dogs, dresses them up like that, and that's messing around with the mother. Her brain should be able to recognize a parasite. You put all these little foo-foo things on, you're messing around with the mom's ability to visually recognize who the proper baby is.
Eastern phoebes will accept a brown-headed cowbird's speckled egg into their nest, though theirs are pure white. The grey catbird, on the other hand, is an expert at rooting out the very same parasites. It memorizes what the first egg in its nest looks like, which is usually its own, and tosses any aberrations. This retaliatory adaptation can fuel an evolutionary arms race, where brood parasites evolve eggs that closely mimic their hosts. Interestingly, birds that do reject parasitic eggs are usually clueless when it comes to parasitic chicks.
That part's interesting too. Sometimes when parents have a dog and then it has babies and they don't need any extra dogs in the house, and the little kids say, "Mommy, mommy, I want the puppy," the mom will have her heartstrings pulled, and then they'll go ahead and raise the puppy because they already had the dog. So that egg example is very similar.
Reed warblers are good at ejecting poorly matching cuckoo eggs, but if one hatches in their nest, they'll care for it, even after it's grown 6 times their size. Though chick rejection is a rarer phenomenon, there are some noteworthy examples. While incubating its eggs, the Australian superb fairy wren sings to them, imparting a unique note that its chicks use as a kind of password. When a cuckoo is in the wren's nest, it hatches first and pushes the others out. But perhaps because it hatched sooner, the cuckoo chick wasn't able to learn the password, and so it doesn't croon the right begging call. At this point,
What do you guys think about that one? Let me know in the comments. That kind of reminds me of barking dogs, like where the parents will ignore their kids while the dog barks, and then the dog will just keep barking because it gets rewarded. They give it a treat to make it shut up. But it's not exactly like this, but that makes sense though. If the baby and the dog are making two different noises and it doesn't match up, it's going to screw with the parent. In this case, the parent just leaves. But with humans, they end up kind of giving the barking dog more attention, even though the barking dog noise is not the beautiful cooing noise that they should get. Like parents oftentimes will complain, "Oh, my baby cries all the time," but then they'll have a dog that barks all the time and they'll act like the dog is better. I don't know. What do you guys think about that one?
the adults usually abandon their nest and start another. Altogether, host species show a remarkable variety of responses. This seems to partially be a result of how long brood parasitism has been in their environment, and thus how much time they've had to evolve suitable adaptations. In fact,
Yeah, how long it's been in the environment. It's like little kids are born into households that already own several dogs, and the mothers and fathers have already basically fell in love with dogs. So now the kids have to adapt and feel like they're less. So yeah, how long it's been going on is important. But in my opinion, it's the brood parasitism is similar to birds and dog culture, but dog culture is pushed on us by people higher up that pay for all this marketing, like the pit bull lobby and other places like that. So it's interesting how the nature part of it with the birds matches up to dog culture, but I believe it's a lot more than that.
Studies have shown that those hosts that reject parasitic eggs less frequently can visually distinguish between their eggs and a brood parasites.
Yeah, they can distinguish between a dog and a kid. Isn't that interesting? So many people say, "Oh, my dog is my kid," but have you looked at your dog? That thing is ugly and gross and it stinks. And so yeah, some birds can visually distinguish between the parasites and their own eggs, and some humans can do that too.
They simply lack a response to the visual information. This is probably because before brood parasitism appeared, responding would have likely had no adaptive value. And even when hosts do recognize a parasite, getting rid of it may not be the best option. The host, especially if it's small, might not be able to kill the parasite.
Yeah, that's kind of like pregnant moms that realize dogs are bad, or little kids that aren't strong enough to push a pit bull away when the pit bull is killing it. It's like you kind of have to have a learned helplessness when you have a family full of dogs, because if a little kid tries to push the dog away, the kid gets killed. And also the mother and father, if they try to rehome the dog or say that they don't want a dog anymore, they will be rejected by society as well.
Or could risk breaking its own eggs in the process. Unless the brood parasite kills all of the host's young, it may be best to simply foster the imposter. Brood parasitism tends to evoke horror and disdain, but why should it be thought of as any more objectionable
Foster the imposter. Yeah, that's dog culture today. Everybody puts dogs above kids.
than predator-prey relationships? And is it ever productive to impose human morals onto other animals? Or does it end up saying more about us than it does them? Whichever way you swing it, brood parasitism is yet another example of the fascinating turns evolution has taken.
Brood parasitism with dog culture, I don't really think it's the same thing. It has a lot of good value for discussion, but the way that we treat dogs is pushed on us by outside marketing forces. So that's why it's even worse than brood parasitism, because we're so intelligent as humans. We have so many ways to recognize things through sounds and through genetics and through science. We shouldn't be sacrificing our kids to dogs at all. I'll put some videos in the description about this, but I am pregnant and I hate my dog. So, pregnant human mothers that are properly hormonally balanced, their brain automatically understands that a dog is a resource sucker. They understand that there's teeth, there's legs, there's all kinds of bacteria and saliva that don't belong around the baby. So many women, when they get pregnant, all of a sudden they want nothing to do with the dog. That's your human instincts that you should be listening to. I've been hating my dog since I gave birth. When it comes to the brood parasitism argument, this makes a lot of sense, because your human brain sees the way a dog acts, it sees the way it sneaks up, and dogs kill kids and maim kids all the time. So listen to your instincts, parents, and yeah, it's all over the place. I'll put some video links in the description. This one will be in the description too. Notice the conclusion of this study. Dogs killing and maiming little kids, it happens in their home. A dog living in their home. So that definitely matches up with brood parasitism. A dog that gets to live in the home for free goes and injures the offspring of the host. So you're hosting a dog, providing everything for it, and it goes and maims your kid. That's very much like brood parasitism. However, there's a lot of other stuff to consider, like the low income people those are the kids that suffer more from these dog bites. So there's an element here of the elitist people that power the marketing. They want to control the lower income people. And part of the way that they do it is through dogs, through allowing dogs to be parasites. So I love this brood parasitism conversation, but there's so much more to it, and you guys might have to take a risk and look at politics and look at this type of stuff. But yeah, Thanks for watching, everybody, and thanks everybody for showing me this video. I'll put all your channels in the description. See you guys in the next one.